lights on. I call the February 1st, 2016 regular council meeting to order. Flag salute. Council Peterson, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Silent roll call has been taken and a quorum is present.
Okay, approve the minutes. There are none. Petitions, communications, citizens' requests. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that would like to discuss an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name and address. Okay. Move on to reports. Council President, I sent an email out to everybody, a reminder of that survey. If we can make sure we do that for Phil. Did it? Okay. I was lucky enough I did mine when I had the city manager on the phone, so I ended up pretty good on mine. Comprehensive plan meeting, that will be instead of our committee meetings on that 2 Mondays from now. It's a 4-hour, I don't know what, is Mr. Russell? I'm sorry, Tuesday, because it's a holiday, correct? Is David here, Russell? He's not. He's out today. It's a 4-hour thing, but they're going to squish it into 3 for us, because they're at a point where they need to really get some feedback from us as far as the monies and stuff.
Tuesday, I have a regular school committee meeting down at Townships.
Okay. You've been to some of these meetings anyways, right? Okay.
I still would like to have us, if we're going to be commenting on this, I would like us to have a printed copy of that plan.
I'll make sure we get one beforehand.
I know you emailed it to us, but it's a lot of stuff to print out.
Yep.
And if we could have the plan in front of us, I think we could comment on it more logically if we could read it.
Okay, so we'll get that, and I believe my understanding is it will be if I remember talking to David correct, it will be the committee, which I believe both of you are on, and the planning board and the council. That's where I believe we're at with that. I had written down food drive. You going to talk about that? Okay, you're going to talk about that. The next thing was I kind of briefly told you guys I'm going to send you an email. It's a healthy eating challenge that the Bangor City Council has challenged other councilors in other cities and towns, and I took them up on it because they emailed me personally last week, and I want to offer it to you guys. I will send it out to you on email, but it basically is for 90 days or 13 weeks, and prohibits items as candy and other forms of cakes and sweets and junk food and sugared soda and alcohol, and you put $1 in a day, and we'll be participating against the Bangor City Council. So I'll send it out to you guys, and hopefully we can get everybody to join.
We'll compete.
One person on the city Bangor council.
2 of them. I think once they find out all of us are doing it, there's going to be more that jump in. That's our goal.
So what do we do? Keep track of this ourselves?
This is an
and then-
honest system, but I will be checking in on all of you.
Yeah, but no, we haven't said we're doing it yet.
Yes.
Are you signing this, Chief?
Yes. Okay.
So you're going to send us a copy?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And where does the money go, did you say?
To a charity of your choice, if you are one of the winners.
Donate $90 to
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so that is it for me. So yes, that on that Tuesday. What's the date, Patty?
It is the 16th.
We start at 5:30. Any issues? I didn't see any emails back, so I think we're okay. Okay. All right. Moving on to standing committees. Is that what someone texted? Okay. Any committees? Nope. City councilors. EJ.
I'd like to officially kick off the 3rd annual Old Town Community Food Drive. Today is February 1st, so for the month of February, the Old Town City Council, city employees, and various community partners have come together once again for the 3rd annual food drive. Town Assessor Travis Roy has been a very influential person moving this forward. We met a couple weeks ago to work out some logistics. Last year we collected 18,414 pounds of food. This year our goal, I haven't talked this over with Travis yet, but I'm going to throw out a number. Goal of 25,000 pounds for the month of February. We will have collection bins at City Hall, the library, public safety, pollution control, public works, and the transfer station. And also joining the city in this effort are the Old Town Orono YMCA, Old Town Water District, and the Old Town Recreation Center. So throughout the month of February, you can drop off your non-perishable items there. Or on February 27th, myself and Travis and hopefully some other folks from the council and city employees will be at Hannaford from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. collecting food like we did last year.
Already signed up.
Because to add to that list, all 3 schools, Old Town schools have joined in as well. So they'll
Awesome.
be accepting donations. They have inter-school challenges going on.
Excellent. So that is our goal. And if you have any questions, reach out to Travis or myself. We'll point you in the right direction.
Do you guys have a sign up going? Who's going to be there from what times and stuff?
We'll get something going around.
Okay.
But
Just so we can jump in
Coordinate
with some.
efforts,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other councilors? Nope. Okay. City attorney.
Everything's quiet.
Thank you. Special committees, school board liaison, city manager. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Did you have a good vacation?
Yes. Just a couple quick items. Ron and I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock on the Jefferson Street School to meet with developers. They're just trying to get some of their tax credits in line, but that looks like that's moving forward, so I'll be able to give you an update once we have that meeting tomorrow. And then the downtown committee has a meeting on Thursday on the signage project. It looks like we'll be able to pay for a large majority of that project out of our brownfield grant funds, so that's Thursday. We have that meeting.
Very good. Any questions for Bill? Okay. Thank you, Bill. Moving on to the consent agenda, new business items number 1, 2, and 3. Councilor Peterson.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves suggested motions under new business items 1, 2, and 3 as presented. 1 is removing school board liaison from the agenda. 2 is reappointing David Russell as plumbing inspector and Bill Murphy as an alternate plumbing inspector. And 3 is accepting forfeiture monies in the amount of $5,170 in the case of the state of Maine versus Josh Tidwell.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Linda, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. 7-0. Okay, moving on to public hearings, non-old business, non-new business. Item number 4. City Council will consider renewing the animal control agreement with Penobscot County for animal control services in the city at a cost of $4,800. Council McLeod, please.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby approves renewing the animal control agreement with Penobscot County in the amount of $4,800 for the animal control services in the city.
Okay, is there a second?
The second.
Okay, John, discussion. Chief, I think you were just going to research a couple things for us as far as maybe asking Orono, maybe Bangor, a couple things.
I did. So what I've learned in the reason for the increases in 2015, the original contract stated that we were slotted for 30 hours of animal control service under that existing contract. We used a total of 142 hours of their service. There was $1,128 slush between the communities. They used that $1,128 to cover cost. Therefore, they didn't bill us for that last year. The reason for the increase is because we increased the number of hours that we use our animal control officer. With that being said, with that amount that we're contracted for this year, so if we exceed that amount, what they've had to do for labor reasons, they've had to make that animal control officer an employee for the county, the Penobscot County. So after we go above and if we go above and beyond that amount, it would be 50 cents per mile and $13 an hour for their services. So that's why we are where we're at with that.
Okay. Were you able to get a chance to call Bangor and see
I did
what
not.
they did?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't know if this isn't a bad deal. I mean, I can tell you that I changed when I came in, that I didn't think that our people should be dealing with feral cats and possible dogs that are biting people that need to be quarantined, and I just didn't think that was an option for us. We can lower that can be lowered if we go back to dealing with business the same way in the next year, whether we're handling these types of complaints. So I guess my suggestion would be is at the end of this year that if we're serious about keeping on an animal control officer, to start looking around and saying, how else do we do that? Is there something that we can contract with that's cheaper?
Just say at least try this out maybe for a year, then and reassess in a year.
I would, yeah.
Questions?
It might be something to put out to bid.
Right. And by then, we'll know, we can figure out what Orno and others are doing that maybe we can.
Orno does this. This is what
Orno
Orno
does this?
Yes.
Part of it,
Yeah, Orno's part of this.
Okay, so it's Bangor that has their own.
Bangor and Hamden, it's a Bangor employee. So it's an employee for the city of Bangor.
Gotcha.
We used to have one in Ultron, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Carol?
Yeah, now, if I can remember what I was going to ask you. If someone calls the ACO, they have a while to get here, right?
Depending on where they are, that's
where they are.
correct.
So
Yes.
who handles it if it's, like, if there's a stray, and do the police pick that up? I'm just curious.
Right now, we're not dealing with strays or ferals. What would happen is the animal control would come to your residence and pick up that animal and bring it to the orphanage.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's out in the middle of Bennett Road.
If they're out in the middle, if there's a stray dog out in the middle of Bennett Road and they call me, the ACO has a time delay, then I would encourage you to call. We'll go out and see if we can catch it. A lot of times you can't, but we'll.
So
we'll
does
go
the
out and grab
resident
it.
call the ACO then, or they call?
They call-
dispatch, and
correct.
dispatch is called?
Yeah, they call dispatch, and dispatch contacts the animal control officer.
And and then what do they do with them? They always take them to the orphanage, or?
I'm going to guess they take them to the orphanage, yeah. Unless they're able to locate the owner of the animal.
Yeah.
I think that it happened a couple weeks at my store. One of my employees called, and it only took 20 minutes for the animal control officer to get there. Took him to the orphanage, and then 2 hours later found out it was just a neighbor that let the cat out.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't that. 20 minutes wasn't bad.
No.
Yeah, with the stray dog issue, sometimes it saves us from getting in the middle of, do they stay at the orphanage? Do we go up and get it and return it to somebody after hours? So it takes us out of the middle of, what do we do with the dog? Well, the dog's been taken to the orphanage. You'll have to contact him in the morning. We're not
Right.
going up and letting him out, and so it kind of takes us out of the middle of that.
I mean, listening to what the chief says, I don't think it's a bad idea to try it for a year and then reassess. And like Stan mentioned, put it out. If we decide to put it out to the bid, that's what we do next year. And that way we can check on the hours and see how far we're off.
And we'll monitor she'll send us every month, she'll send us a tally as to where we're at, so we can monitor where we're at financially. So we can look to make sure that we don't go over that unless we absolutely have to, and then I'll be able to come back and explain to you on what cases we went over on.
Right. Okay.
Because the 50 cents depends on where she is.
Right.
So, if she's in Bangor, great. If she might even be in Old Town, that's great. But, if she's in Exeter, problem.
Right. Any other questions for the chief? Okay. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you, chief.
Sure.
Next item, number 5, the city council will consider an offer from Thornton Construction to purchase Edging and Drift Island located on tax map 25, lot 250 in the amount of $10,000. Councilor Nuttall.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the offer from Thornton Construction in the amount of $10,000 for the purchase of Edging and Drift Island, located on tax map 25, lot 250. The City Council further authorizes the city manager to execute all necessary documents to complete the transaction.
Okay, is there a second? For discussion purposes? Okay, Stan. Discussion. I know at the finance, was it finance? Yeah, finance committee meeting we had. We talked, there was a couple different scenarios going on, and it ended up that Travis was going to go talk to the abutters to see who was interested. I know there was some discussion also about putting something like this out to bid so everybody could bid on it. So Travis, what did we find out as far as the abutters are concerned?
Okay, so far what we've done is sent the form letter that I forwarded to Council President Mahan to all of the properties that line the shore on both sides, from the Boom House restaurant to the Off the Wagon Bar on this side, so this whole shoreline, And then for the other shoreline, that very first empty lot, when you go over the Center Street Bridge, on your left-hand side, it belongs to the Penobscot Nation. Dave Service Center, Thornton Construction, and the state of Maine owns the last one where the temporary bridge was before you cross into Milford. So that letter was sent to all of them. We've had response or conversations with 3 of them. One being Mr. Thornton renewing his interest, one being Brookfield, which owns Brookfield was also added into that list because they own the hydro dam, and this is in the tailwater area. So Brookfield responded. I have a letter from their manager that they don't have any interest in it at this time. They just ask that they be kept informed of the process and be allowed to be involved in those discussions for hydro dam safety reasons. You know, being downstream from a hydro dam, there's certain things that come into play. So they'd like to be involved just as a stakeholder to ask questions, give information where needed. Penobscot Nation was a very similar response. They were very happy with us reaching out to them, first of all. But they wound up referring it to Chris Sockalexis, their Culture and Historic Preservation Officer. There is a fishing weir, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, W-E-I-R, in the river at low tide. You can see off that Penobscot Nation land right down the other side of the bridge that comes out into the water. It's, what they explained it to me, it's a handmade pier type of a thing with square rocks that they used to go out on literally 100 years ago to spear or net fish in that channel because it gave them a pinch point in that channel. That's not part of this island, it's just in the vicinity. So their answer was that they don't have any interest in the island itself, but they have a lot of historical interest in that area of the river. And they would just also like to be kept informed of any decisions along the way or any meetings so they could give input or concerns along the way. So that's the 3 that we've heard back from the Penobscot Nation, Brookfield, and Mr. Thornton. And what we spoke about at the last meeting was we'd come back with this information for you and then decide from there where to go.
So my one question is, when they say they want to be involved going forward, let's just say hypothetically we approve this tonight, and if I understand it right, this is just it's not that we're going to receive a check tonight. This is if Mr. Thornton gets approval to do what he wants to do. Is that correct?
Well, not to oversimplify it, but it's whatever you want it to be. What we talked about before was a conditional purchase and sale agreement. If Mr. Stumpville agrees with some way to approach that so that it keeps the city whole and keeps Mr. Thornton whole, that he doesn't actually take any ownership, we don't receive any money until it's determined if what he wants to do is legally permissible.
So, if the DEP, EPA, whoever it is that says, no, you can't do this, then he wouldn't get it and we wouldn't get the money.
If the parties want to structure it that way, that's fine. You could also do an absolute sale at this point as well.
Because my only other question was, and I'll open up, is that when you say that the Penobscot Nation and the electrical, the hydro,
Brookfield,
yeah, they want to be involved in these discussions going forward. What does that mean? Like at the planning board level, at the EPA
They
level?
both just,
what does that?
They both simply asked to be notified of meetings or informational sessions on it so they could just partake. Neither one of them has an interest in preserving it. And I could share the emails or letters with you. They don't have any interest in preserving it or purchasing it or anything at this point, but they want to be informed as how this
What
rolls
the
out in
plan's
case
gonna be.
other plans develop or whatnot, so they can have feedback.
Okay, okay, that explains. I took it as maybe they might be interested if something happened down the road, but they don't want any interest.
Neither one has stated any interest in owning it for any reason.
Okay. Linda.
Okay, how big is this island?
I don't have that in front of me. I believe it's about 0.14 acres. It's small.
Okay, and
It's
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
It's underwater. How often?
Well,
The estimates are 50-60% of the time of the year. I mean, it's significant.
Okay, so, and what does he want to do with this?
Because there's a lot of permitting to get to this. What he has told us is that he plans to come back to the planning board for a restaurant on land, okay, that he will potentially involve the Captain Nick's rail car as part of that restaurant on land up on the Center Street lot. He said if it was permissible through the Army Corps of Engineers or DEP, EPA, that he would like to look into having a footbridge and a small picnic area on that island.
So we'd have to police it as well, right?
Well, we've had those conversations, to be honest with you, Chief Will Cox, myself, and Dave Russell, and, there's mechanisms that can be put in place. I don't want to speak for Dave, but I mean, it can be permitted in such a way that it has to be non-accessible during hours that they're the business isn't open, things like that, with a gate or whatever. But the short answer is yes, but there's ways you could approach that, I guess, from your purview.
So, Carol.
It seems to me we're putting the cart before the horse here. I think we need to, some of these questions aren't going to cost money to get answered. They're pretty easy to answer. You know, it's going to be, like she says, a policing issue. Yeah, it is. I mean, you leave the ladder up at night, and that's your risk. If you have a footbridge going to an island, that's a pretty big risk. And that river, and I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying and that river moves pretty fast a lot of the time. It is a river, it's not a lake, and you know, it's got a current all the time.
And being an island, I can't imagine, even with picnic tables, as far as a setback from waterways, a setback from, you know, we're living on Pushaw Stream, you're gonna be 150 feet away from the stream before you can build, all of those things. I just don't see it as a good idea to sell it to anybody until we know from DEP, from the environmental people, all of those things, what can be done with that island.
If permissible, I'll respond from the 1,000-foot view, because I'm not a code guy. But what I understand is it's significant time and money investment just to go through the permitting process with EPA and Army Corps of Engineers.
I think I asked
So
that
that's
at the
why-
Finance Committee. Well, because I said, why don't we just go to the planning board and find out if we can do this? And that was the answer that you gave that night, was that Mr. Thornton would have to invest into going through that process. So why would he do that unless he has some kind of agreement that shows that if he got it, then he'd get it? That's how you said it that night, basically.
Correct. It's completely up to the council, but his opinion was that if he could find out whether you guys were completely interested or not interested in selling it, that would give him square footing to start out with.
My only thing was, and it was brought up, and I'm still struggling with it to this minute, is that, you know, is it good enough just to contact the abutters, or do we have to put it out totally to bid? And I think I asked you that question, Bill, and I don't think I think the council can make whatever decision they want to.
Unlike myself or department managers, the council, you own the property, you have a disposition of real estate policy, which says you can bid it out or you can negotiate a valuation. That's completely the council's decision.
Okay.
We don't have that option.
Right. Right. And when it comes to like lots behind residence stuff, that's how we're treating it right now. Basically, we're contacting the abutters. We're treating it that way at this point.
Right.
And if the council decides to put this out to bid, then you're setting a standard that's what we need to do when it comes to things like this. Now, I don't know how many other islands are going to come up for sale. You know.
Well, that's part of my point. I think where it's an island and the city owns it, I see the city of Old Town, all of us, as abutters to the island. I really kind of do, because we could, you know, it's in the middle of a river. So, you know, it's not like it's in my backyard.
Right.
And, you know, so that's the way I see it. But I still suggest that we could do a little more research that isn't going to be too costly. I mean, we know that, you know, there's going to be a liability issue there.
So his first step would have to be going to the planning board first, and then like the EPA and all that. Is he got to go to those first? I guess. Do you know that at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of separate issues. The planning board will be for the design of the restaurant, and the only way the planning board would entertain the footbridge picnic area type conversation is with permitting from those other agencies. Because if it's and again, I'm giving you the 1,000-foot view, but if it's a navigatable waterway, the Army Corps of Engineers comes involved, and they're the big trump card then, so you have to pass their thresholds first before the city could offer a permit saying, yes, you could build that. That has to be approved at that level first. So I don't know if I answered your question, but.
No, I think it comes back to there's no easy way out as far as him trying to find out if he can or cannot do it. I mean, he's going to have to spend some money to do it, it sounds like.
It does sound like that.
So, Eric?
I'm not playing devil's advocate, this is just for information. But if he's to maintain his applications before the Army Corps and the DEP and the Planning Board, right now he has no standing to do that because he has no interest in the real estate. So they would turn him down on that basis. If he had an option agreement or something along those lines, or a conditional purchase and sale agreement, that would, or simply the city's permission to file the application, that would give him standing to pursue those questions with those bodies. Just as far as the local planning board action goes, in addition to the Army Corps and DEP issues, it's going to depend on whether he's going to create any structures there. And the picnic tables might not be a structure unless they're affixed to the earth, but a bridge sounds like it is, and so he may run into some issues there. Since it, I can't, at this point, I'm not offering any opinion, but I think it would raise issues under the shoreline zoning ordinance as to whether or not
Right.
that was a permissible.
And I think that's what Mr. Russell said that night too. I mean, it didn't sound like, didn't sound very confident that everything could go through. So as far as the council is concerned, I think it's either we authorize to get into this agreement and see what happens, or we just deny it, or we deny it and say we put it out for bid to the whole city. I think that's what we're looking at.
Well,
Yes.
First of all, after what we just heard from our lawyer, do we want to be the type of people that sell a piece of land that they
Right.
can't use?
Right.
So,
This
They ain't
agree-
gonna buy it if they can't use it.
that's right. That's part of the
well,
agreement.
no, but if he's saying that we also have to look at the, what was the term as far as the,
Generally speaking, under the
Zoning,
on the
the
shoreline
zoning.
zoning ordinance, if a structure has to be set back from the river
Right.
more than this island would allow, unless it's what's called a functionally water-dependent structure. A bridge in this circumstance might be or might not be. That would be one issue I think the planning board would need to look at.
I still think it's,
For what it's worth, my 2 cents are, we talk about green area in this town, which that would become that we could use. We talk about improving downtown. How cool would it be to have an island over there with people on it moving around? We talk about taxes. We got a gentleman that's willing to come in and build a restaurant there in town that we can tax. We have the right to sell this outright for $10,000, an island with real trees that doesn't flood out there, sold for 14, so we have a competitive price. It shouldn't be our decision to decide whether he can put a bridge on there or not. It should be our decision if this is good for Old Town, and let the Army Corps of Engineers and the rest of those people worry about whether it's functional or not. Because if it isn't, he's not gonna buy it. But without our ticket, he can't do nothing, so we ain't gonna get a restaurant, and we ain't gonna get a developed green area downtown.
That's basically what I said at the beginning, that we're not going to get a check unless this whole thing goes through in his favor. This is allowing him to take those steps to
But
through
do
the
we know
process.
that the restaurant is contingent on the island?
It is not.
We do
No.
not.
It is not.
So
It is
that's,
not.
so that's,
But you're also being unwelcoming by saying, forget the island.
well,
You know, as a council, I think we should be welcoming businesses into town instead of fighting them.
And I think
That's my 2 cents,
I'm-
what it's
yeah,
worth.
yes. I don't think we're fighting them. I think it's, we have, it's a small island, and it does flood a lot of the time. It's,
Why
yeah.
do we care as a council? If we're gonna sell it to him for $10,000, we can tax him on it. Once we've sold it to him. Right now, what are we getting out of that island? It's a dead space in the middle of town that nobody uses for anything.
I don't know. I'm just, that's it's a dangerous river. People have drowned in the river. It's, how many, you have to get them off the bridge.
You're right.
I don't think that's our problem. I think that's his problem in passing the litmus test when he develops it.
And I think this,
Yeah.
if by passing this, I think allowing this to happen, once again, will allow him to at least start the process to see if he can even do what he wants to do. He's not going to write a check for $10,000 tonight. This is just going to give him to go forward to say, okay, let's go to the planning board, EPA. That's all this is doing. I don't see any harm in doing that because personally, I think at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to get what he wants, but at least we're not stopping him from at least researching it. Because if we say no, then he's not going to research it. Yes.
One other, I hate to overload it, but one other piece of information that I forgot to mention is that Penobscot Nation informally suggested that if this did happen, it was permitted, that they might be interested in working with him to do some kind of a educational, signage or whatever would be allowed to try to bolster the experience type of thing and learn about the river for customers that were out there. Just to clarify, the only thing he's talking about, anything permanent, would be whatever had to support the bridge. Everything else is picnic tables that get lugged off during the high water seasons. So.
Okay, so this, just once again, before we vote, this would just allow, if this goes this way, this would just allow it to go into purchase agreement, that we'd only get the money if he's allowed to
Right.
get permitted on this stuff.
I would defer to Eric on what form we should use, but that's the idea.
But that's how we get it written up.
If that's your guidance, if you approve this with that guidance, then that's what the purchase and sale agreement will say, that he will have an option not to go forward if he doesn't get his permits.
Right.
If you give the other guidance that, no, this is a straight sale, $10,000, and you take all the risk, that's what the purchase and sale agreement will say. So, you know, if you approve this, I need your direction as to whether to include that condition or not.
I think back in the finance committee, I think at the beginning it was going to be one of those agreements that only if he gets approved.
Conditional purchase and sale.
Yes. Okay, so we either vote yes or no on this. Any other questions?
Yes. Back to the thing where I thought it should go out to bid, but if I hear correctly, that it's okay for us to do it the way.
To do what we're doing, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yep. Okay. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 5-2. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item number 6. The City Council consider accepting a bid to replace a polymer system at the pollution control plant. This was approved and recommended by the Sewer Advisory Board at their December 11, 2015 meeting. Councilor May.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the low bid from Polyblend in the amount of $10,755 to replace the polymer system at the pollution control plant. Funds are to come from account 0815-0414, other capital outlay.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
EJ. David?
Yeah, I don't know,
Just say what you said at the finance committee, because where everybody wasn't here.
the same thing?
Spiel, yeah.
Okay. There's, part of our treatment process down there is there's a polymer system, and part of that has broke. It's glued together. We can't get spare parts for it. And basically, it's not a matter of when if it breaks, it's when it's gonna break. Talked to the Sewer Advisory Board, and they recommended we get a new system. And I put out 2 bids. One was for Polyblend, one was for Dynablend, and the cheapest one is the Polyblend system. And Stan, I did call the guy. He says every part on that system, you can get it as a spare part. I talked to O&O. They've had their system for 8 or 9 years. They've only had one piece fail, and it was operator error, and he said that he got a replacement part for it.
Cool.
So I can only go by what he tells me. I gotta trust, it's a trust thing.
Well, we appreciate you checking into that. That's
Okay.
good information. Any questions for David on this? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed.
Thank you.
Item number 7, the new one, okay, right? The City Council will consider entering into agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation, MDOT, for proposed improvements to Route 2A, Center Street, and Brunswick Street intersection. The MDOT will install red and yellow blinking lights at the intersection based on the recent crash summary report at no cost to the city. Councilor McLeod.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby approves entering into an agreement with the MDOT for purposed improvements to Route 2A, Center Street, and Brunswick Street intersection by installing red and yellow blinking lights at no cost to the city. The City Council further authorized the city manager to execute said agreement.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jan, discussion? Did everybody read the report that the chief sent out to, or Patty sent out to us? A lot of information.
So what that report will show is from 2011 to 2015, there's been 30 crashes at that intersection. And then it's also going to break down what type of crashes they were they, and the reasons for it. Did people run stop signs? Did people hit pedestrians? Did people hit other vehicles? And that's what that report's going to do. It's going to break it right down into everything that goes into a normal crash report. And then you're going to have diagrams of each accident that was recorded there that we did. So I contacted Bruce Mattson at Maine DOT out of Bangor. And what I learned about why that light was looking to be put there is it is, in the last 3 years, they've had 8 crashes at that intersection. So this information is generated out of Augusta, and it goes to local DOTs within each county. They then assign it to a project manager, and they look at it, how or if we can lower the crash rates at these intersections. That intersection is currently ranked 6th in Penobscot County for crash incidents, so it's fairly high. He said if you were to take an average across the state, which is 1.00, that would be the average of crashes. That intersection is rated at 3.41, so it's a high crash intersection. So the money that comes out of Augusta, that comes out of their, it's a safety project fund that they have that goes into communities to help decrease with either lighting or stop-goes, stop signs, whatever they choose to put there, their project engineer decides to put there to help decrease crashes. So will that decrease crashes? I don't know. I think that anything that's put up there is going to at least help. It's $20,000 that's been allotted to that intersection by the state. In that agreement that you have, it will also show that the city of Old Town maintains that light once it's put in. And an LED light fixture, I would imagine that we're not going to maintain a lot on. There's not going to be a lot of wear and tear on that.
Right.
I think when you also look at that agreement, it's going to say that we're responsible for trimming back any obstruction that gets in the way, and so we're maintaining any trees that are there.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. I did contact the project manager, Catherine Rand. I didn't get a phone call back, or if I did, I didn't get it today. So, and I left a message for her this morning, and I sent an email request. So, at this point, I haven't heard directly from her. I've heard from Bruce Matson, who's the head of DOT out of Bangor.
Okay. Thank you for getting that additional information.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Any questions for the chief on this?
Idea.
Okay. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you, chief.
Thanks.
Number 8. City Council consider accepting a low bid for a plow truck chassis for the Public Works Department. Councilor May.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the bid from Freightliner of Maine in the amount of $61,318 with trade-in for the purchase of a 2017 Freightliner plow truck chassis for the Public Works Department. This is a budgeted item, and funds are to come from account 7000-0414, Capital Heavy Equipment Reserve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Linda, discussion? John had presented this at the council meeting about the bids and some thickness of the frames and all this stuff, so. Anybody that wasn't here have any questions on this? No? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed. You're not over just yet. That's right. Number 9, the city council consider accepting a bid for a side dump body and plow that goes with the plow truck chassis for the Public Works Department. Councilor Nettle.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the bid from Viking Cities in the amount of $65,705 for the purchase of a side dump body and plow for the Public Works Department. This is a budgeted item, and funds are to come from account number 7000-0414, Capital Heavy Equipment Reserve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And discussion on this one? Once again, John presented this. Okay, all those in favor? None opposed? Item number 10, the city council consider accepting a bid for a vacuum sweeper truck for the Public Works Department. Councilor McLeod.
Oh, I lost my place, sorry. Suggested motion. Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby accepts the bid from
Number 10. We on 10? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
number
on 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Viking, how do you pronounce it?
Chavez.
Savez?
Savez.
Savez, okay. In the amount of $249,725 with a trade-in for the purchase of a 2016 Johnston vacuum sweeper truck for the Public Works Department. This is a budgeted item, and the funds are to come from account number 7000-0414, Capital Heavy Equipment Reserve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jan, discussion?
You're gonna trade in both trucks or just one? Both sweepers or just one?
The one that's been sitting out back, I think that's 10 or 12 years. If they want to make an offer on it, we probably get more for scrap, quite honestly. We've been picking at it for 10 years.
Yeah. And this is one of those where I know we
That's
talked.
what, it came from the university, I think,
Right.
if that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, you're right. It lived a little bit longer once you got it.
Yeah.
I I know we talked about this last year, the year before, about leasing and all that stuff. And I know Miles said something like this, that we're better off to buy it. And with everything going on, that Phil Rock had said, all the stuff that you need to do with EAP and all that stuff, this is the way to go, it sounds like. Any other questions for John?
I
All
will
those
say
in-
it's a lot quieter than the one that you've heard go
Oh, very
around town
nice.
for 10 years. Much, much quieter.
Be good.
Very good. So I won't have to be at 4 a.m. I won't have to hear that. That's good. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 11, City Council consider approval of renewal application for a malt spirituous and vinous liquor license and a special amusement permit, no dancing, for John Rondo, 268 Main Street. Councilor Klitsch.
Resolved, the City of Old Town Council, excuse me, hereby approves a renewal application for the malt spirituous vinous liquor license and special amusement permit, no dancing, for John Rondo, doing business at Yama's, 268 Main Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
And discussion. Patty, we all set with everything?
We are. We're good to go.
Good. Okay. All those in favor? None opposed. Item number 12. City Council consider authorizing the expenditure of $30,000 as local matching funds to submit a CDBG micro enterprise grant application to the Department of Economic and Community Development. The program will be used to assist targeted downtown business/property owners with improvements to building facades. Councilor Roach.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves the submission of a CDBG Micro Enterprise Grant application to the Department of Economic and Community Development and commits $30,000 in local matching funds to be used toward a program to improve downtown building facades. Funds are to be transferred from the LLC account number 03450 to account number 1215-0299 Economic Development Contractual.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Carol, discussion? Ron, anything you want to add to this?
No, it's just that this is part of our downtown revitalization strategy. And I think that this is a good opportunity to combine state funds with up to $150,000 with local match. And I hope make quite a difference downtown.
Great.
Agreed.
Any questions for Ron? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Last item on the agenda tonight, the City Council consider going into executive session for the purpose of discussing an economic development issue relating to Expera Mill. Councilor May.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves going into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title 405, Section 6C, for the purpose of discussing an economic development issue relating to the Expera Mill.
Is there a second?
Second.
And discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, and it is 7:42.